Hey everyone, it's Bennett, your fantasy football commissioner, with the playoff edition of the weekly recap in the Forestland Mishmash Fantasy Football League. So we had a pretty stunning couple of upsets here in the Mishmash League as two teams that snuck in under the wire both get the upset victory, and they will move on to the Super Bowl of the fantasy football playoffs. That would be the Somerset Stallions and Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy. And it's amazing how it mirrors real life, where the top three scorers in the league are all out. As so often is the case, the teams you expect to win, who have the best regular seasons, sometimes just don't get hot at the end and don't win the championship. So it's pretty analogous to what we see in real life sometimes. So real devastating losses for Catonsville Cartel and the Slim Aussies, especially, who were just scoring points left and right all season. And it just was one of those things. So let's get right to the recap. This was crazy how it started on Thursday night, and both games were affected. So the first thing is that the Stallions had Phillip Rivers on Thursday night, and the Slim Aussies had Justin Jackson, who was actually a bit of good news because Melvin Gordon was ruled out before the game, as was Austin Eckler. So it was, on the surface, really fortunate that the Slim Aussies had clarity on Justin Jackson starting and, got a respectable 16 points, had a late touchdown, and is definitely not the reason why the Slim Aussies lost. The reason I point that out so much is that Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy, who I'll get to in a minute, had the choice of picking up the Kansas City backup because Kareem Hunt was was out because of the domestic violence or the assault that he got caught doing. So that really helped the Finkels, but we'll get to that in a minute. But we had the Slim Aussies started off with a respectable 16 points for Justin Jackson and pretty much negated or matched by Phillip Rivers, who had 21 points. So pretty darn even entering the weekend. Then we had the Saturday games where Slim Aussies were feeling pretty confident after Philip Lindsay only got 8 points Saturday night in the Cleveland-Denver game. And Jarvis Landry, who had a catch on the first possession of the game, and you'll see that's a reoccurring theme here, the early scoring and then drying up as the game went on with Jarvis Landry, who only ended up with 6 points. So the Slim Aussies were feeling pretty good Sunday morning, and that continued at the very, very beginning of the early windows when Kirk Cousins had a passing touchdown in the first drive of the game. Ezekiel Elliott had a bunch of points early. I don't remember exactly. Adam Humphries had 3 catches for 30 yards in the first quarter. And that was very short-lived because there was nothing after that. So you had the Vikings with 41 points in real life, and not Adam Humphries, Adam Thielen, who was literally had that streak of 100-yard games, and look at all these touchdowns. 17 points, 32, 25, 20s, 30s, all the way down. Had one mediocre week here, and then started to fall off here. And he ended up with 2 catches for 19 yards. As far as I can tell, he was healthy. The real-life Vikings get 41 points, and Adam frickin' Thielen, who's been the stud all year, only gets 2 catches for 19 yards. That's sort of what killed the Slim Aussies, along with, again, Adam Humphries getting a couple points early and then nothing the rest of the game. Corey Davis, who has been pretty solid, all of a sudden gets – and the Titans scored 17 points. He gets 3 catches for 33. He's had 2 really mediocre weeks in a row after having a bunch of good weeks. And that was it for the early game Sunday. Meanwhile, the Stallions had a little bit of disappointment as well. Although D.D. Westbrook, who did pretty much nothing but did get a special teams, I think it was a punt return touchdown, so he gets an extra 6 points there. Jordy Nelson was very respectable, who incidentally was on the Aussies earlier this year, had basically 2 or 3 good fantasy weeks in a row after doing nothing pretty much the middle part of the season, so 14 points there. In the late afternoon window, Russell Wilson did okay, 20 points, obviously really helped there. Julian Edelman basically did nothing all game but had some garbage points later as the Patriots tried to score late, so he got a bunch of those 16 late. George Kittle only had a couple catches. If you remember, he had 210 yards the previous game. He goes down to 8. So the Stallions had some disappointing performances from Lindsey, from Jarvis Landry and Kittle, and a 0 for the Giants kicker. But guess what? The Aussies were even worse. And other than the Falcons D with 20 points, pretty much got nothing from anybody during that afternoon window. As we got to the evening, we had where is he? Brandon Cooks, who had a mediocre day as well. All of a sudden, he's been scoring all year. If you look at all these points he's gotten, and then in the last 2 weeks, 5 points and 11 points. Obviously, that's not getting it done. Jared Goff just looks terrible, and the Rams' offense has been sputtering. So that led to a 20-point deficit the Slim Aussies had going into Monday night, where they had Ian Thomas for the Panthers and Drew Brees. So was feeling pretty confident. The Stallions did have Alvin Kamara. And meanwhile, just like Adam Thielen, who'd been scoring all year, Drew Brees with nothing the last 3 weeks, didn't have a single. He had, one touchdown? No, 0 touchdowns. In the last 3 weeks has had 2 touchdowns. And look at all the weeks before. 4, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3. Had basically only one bad week in the first 12, and the last 3 weeks just put up nothing. So that definitely sealed the deal. And just to add insult to injury, Ian Thomas had all 3 of his fantasy points on the very first drive of the game. Meanwhile, Alvin Kamara did what he needed to do, had a bunch of short catches, was just racking up points here and there. And the Somerset Stallions with the big upset. They get the victory over the Slim Aussies, 141-108. The Slim Aussies are totally bummed after having the best record in the league. They lose 2 in a row to end the season, and they are out, and they're playing for third place, and the Stallions will be playing for the championship. The other game was also a disappointment, as Ray Finkel, who snuck in on the last day of the season with 107 points, justified their position by getting a very, very respectable 149 points. They benefit from the connection of Alshon Jeffrey to Derek for Nick Foles, who had that awesome rapport last year when Foles had the playoff run. So Alshon Jeffrey benefited with 8 on the Sunday night game with 8 catches for 160 yards, 25 points. Julio Jones did basically a very solid Julio Jones day. Jared Goff and Cam Newton did nothing to speak of, but check this out. Jalen Samuels, who's in for the injured James Conner, he had an awesome day. So that was a late season pickup. Good job picking up Samuels there. And then again with Kareem Hunt out, Damian Williams, who the Slim Aussies could have picked up for Thursday night with Melvin Gordon being out. Damian Williams was a flyer for the Finkles. He got 29 points on that Thursday night game, as I mentioned earlier. And Stephon Diggs got one of the touchdowns from the Vikings, which, as we mentioned, Adam Thielen clearly did not get anything. And Ray Finkel with a couple mediocre positions there for Josh Adams, who I did have a touchdown, so did get at least some points there. Got unexpected points from Jalen Samuels and Damian Williams. They're going to be sort of co-MVPs of at least that playoff game, plus Alshon Jeffrey, 149 points. Meanwhile, Gallo, who's been scoring points all year, gets a little bit from Josh Allen, nothing from Saquon Barkley, who also has been a stud all year. Look at these, 20, 20, 20, 30, 40, 26, 19, 36, 36, 18, 9. Previous week, the Chicago Travelers had the worst output of the year for Todd Gurley, and now it was Saquon Barkley's turn to score no points. Michael Thomas had a couple catches. He's been great all year. Look at his points all year. 19, 27, 43, all these points. Meanwhile, he gets 11. Smith-Schuster's been amazing all year. 34, 40, 10. It's just been a great especially since he's not the primary receiver. He only gets 8 points. And Austin Hooper got shut out. Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook did okay. So 134 points is not terrible, but just not enough with with James Conner out and Austin Hooper getting nothing. And meanwhile, Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy, they're into the Super Bowl with 149 to 134 victory. And so now, just to recap the point total, if we look at the point total for the regular season, we have Catonsville Cartel, Travelers, and Slim Aussies clearly with the most points, better than all the teams in the MASH division, but they're all out. Meanwhile, you had the Stallions with one of the probably right in the middle in terms of points scored, and Ray Finkel's Kicking Academy with the third or fourth lowest in the whole league. But again, that doesn't matter. They're in the Super Bowl, and now we have a matchup here, which is interesting, where Finkel may have been in trouble, may have peaked 1 week too early because they've got Cam Newton out, but they've got, of course, Dak Prescott back as a backup, and Mike Williams. Not that I'm trying to give him fantasy advice, but he had 35 points, so Ray Finkel may consider putting him in. And, of course, this Josh Adams or this Damian Williams, Jalen Samuels combo. But as it sits right now, the Stallions are a big favorite. They are projected. Where is my projection? What happened to my projection? They are projected to win 160 to 123. But as we know, a lot can happen. A lot of lineup changes for Finkel. And in the consolation bracket, the Cartel will face the Slim Aussies. Cartel are a big favorite, but I haven't even looked at my lineup yet because I'm still reeling from my loss. And then, of course, we have the consolation ladder. So good luck to the Stallions and Finkel this weekend. Just to let you know, I'm actually going to be on a cruise next week, so I will not be giving an update. It's not because I'm bummed about not being in the finals. It's because I will be on a cruise either in Cozumel or Key West or somewhere in the Caribbean. So Merry Christmas to everyone. I'll try and do a recap later next week. Good luck to the Stallions and the Stallions and the Kicking Academy. And for everyone else, again, great year. Thanks for playing. And have a great holiday week.